But when it comes to things about people's methodologies to be different than mine, there are some things that do test my patience. More specifically, if certain areas of the news have been true, that Boris Johnson believes absolutely that he behaved fully in tension with the rules of COVID during the Partygate scandal, which didn't end his political career, but stamped a very nasty mark against his name. I mention this incident, ladies and gentlemen, because to this very day, Boris Johnson categorically believes no, 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 he doesn't believe. He is thoroughly convinced that he has still not done anything wrong, and that he thinks, he's absolutely in the right for what he's done. These are the things, ladies and gentlemen, that you have to understand. Maybe from how I see it, maybe if you're watching from the US or somewhere else in the world, it might be, again, following British politics is a strange but kind of almost straightforward minefield to get through, because as far as I can see it, ladies and gentlemen, when you are a politician, and this is not, what some people might say about politicians are just corrupt and they'll lie and they'll continue to get paid for it anyway because fuck it, who cares? My opinion, ladies and gentlemen, is that politicians should serve the people, not themselves, and that anyone else, just like any politician, they have got to have their say. Those are my two golden rules when it comes to politics, mostly because they are so fundamental to like the principles of any real free and real democracy. That, well, are you surprised? Are you really surprised that I even came to this conclusion of this system? Furthermore, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to make this point right now. And again, you heard me talk about it earlier, about how the one thing that has to change is people's attitudes around here. And I still actually pray for Boris Johnson so that he can sort of see some kind of sense, or he can take a big step backwards, because at many times throughout the day, I felt honestly wanting to literally send an email to Boris Johnson to tell him that if this is absolutely what he fundamentally believes, despite all evidence to the contrary, does he have any idea exactly how bad that makes him look and how deluded it makes him sound? But then again, Boris Johnson is one of those sorts of men that can literally go through his entire life without facing any sort of consequence whatsoever, because he can bribe his way out of just about any situation, and that is the end of the story as far as he's concerned. You don't have to face any consequences like the rest of us. You just have to slap on the back and you get fined, and you're still expected to run the country, even though the system in place, rather more out of morality or any sort of ethic rule, is that you're supposed to resign if you have a criminal record to your name. But then again, Johnson is the sort of things that law is only ever applicable whenever he wants it to be, regardless if it turns out he lies to the Queen, or he breaks the rules, or parties on the day of the Queen's husband's funeral, the Prince Philip, for example. And the only other things I just kind of want to say, ladies and gentlemen, is that I still pray for Johnson, as well as for everybody else for that matter, just because it's just sort of what I have to do. Not because I don't want to turn myself into the sort of people that I've been told to systematically class as enemies, but because that's just sort of how I was brought up. That's how I was told to what to do in these sort of situations. But as the days go by, ladies and gentlemen, I still am fundamentally under the impression that Boris Johnson is a very malicious man. Because even though he doesn't seem to know, he has got to know in some way, shape or form that He knows that, like, his actions are wrong and the things he's done over the years are wrong, but deep down, he doesn't care. Because, ladies and gentlemen, if he can get away with it, that's all that matters. And if he could get away with even making a comeback into Parliament, he would go straight for it. Whether it's talking down Rishi Sunak's plans about Brexit, or saying that the left have, or the Labour have devised a plot to get rid of Johnson, when no, the Gray report, was done way before, Sue Gray was appointed Chief of Staff. So it's not really a plot at all. Also, there was another report that came out earlier today saying that Johnson knew absolutely well that this was not a good idea. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Despite all evidence to the contrary, despite how many times we are constantly told that, the left are up to no good, and that deep down they want to just get rid of the Tories and anything like that. Well, again, ladies and gentlemen, if they are called right now, the Labour are called the opposition for a reason. What do you think they want to do? Start helping their opposition? That's not how it works, ladies and gentlemen. And again, I've spoke in more optimistic terms throughout this video, but also you have to get back down to reality sooner or later. And unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, reality is, again, just one of those things where some people can just decide whenever it's applicable or relative whatsoever. Which that just about says a great deal about the people of this country, because there are thousands of them, ladies and gentlemen, not just in England, but in France, Germany, Spain, Portugal, Australia, Israel, China, Russia, Jamaica, the USA, Canada, Brazil, Peru, all over the world. There are people who are like that. On the other hand, ladies and gentlemen, there are people who are not like that. There are people who are incredibly generous, charitable, kind, helping, friendly, orthodox, open-minded, and free-spirited. And I love them just as much as I love the first group as well. It's how it has to be, ladies and gentlemen. It's the only thing that I've got to grasp onto. And in case you think I'm lying, ladies and gentlemen, well, I had another thing to say about that too. And that is, I think I've worked out, ladies and gentlemen, the problems I was having last year in the things I was saying and why nobody seemed to pay attention to them. You want to know why, ladies and gentlemen? And forgive me if this may come across as one of the most arrogant things you could hear, but it's because I think that I was right all along. You want to know why I think that, ladies and gentlemen? Because, logically, if nobody responds to you, and if nobody answers you, and nobody has anything to say about it, then is there any way that they can prove that I'm wrong? There's no way that they can prove I'm right either, but how can you prove somebody is wrong if you don't try and discern or discredit their opinions, or even hold them up to the light by showcasing that they are backwards, futile, and stultifyingly ill-informed opinions? How can you do that if you are not opposed, ladies and gentlemen? And as I said last week about people's attitudes having to change, just as I said today, I will probably say it next Friday as well. And what will we find, ladies and gentlemen? Somehow or other, I think I'll be proved right again. I'm not saying this is the sort of thing that's going to work or will be a permanent thing, but what I will say, ladies and gentlemen, is that if you do not want the world to be run by people who think they can get away with whatever they want, do not be like them. That's the first step. That's the easiest step to take. The hardest step, ladies and gentlemen, is to showcase to the world that the world should be fair, equal, and it should free those who are imprisoned, and it should punish the guilty. I should say free the innocent would be the better word for it. But again, considering some people's opinions about, bringing back the death penalty, you would sort of almost want to be assertive about what crimes are deserving of the death penalty, and then where will it be? That will undermine their sense of justice and of the law tenfold. But what can we do, ladies and gentlemen? We keep working. That's what we do. Thank you.